I feel like I need like coffee or a shot of coffee. So I don't know if you know this, but I'm so gay. Yeah, that's me. I'm a gay person. Diggy, why am I so freaking awkward? I came out when I was 19 years old. I kind of always knew that I preferred women, or I liked girls. And the earliest memory that I can think of is when I had a crush on my best friend Jane when I was in kindergarten. Even as a kid, you kind of can discern a friendship from a romantic interest, and we just became friends. Obviously, I was like 5 years old. Nothing came out of it. But the next memory I could think of is when I went to the Philippines, and I went to school there for about a year. And I started to develop crushes on my classmates. And so I was about 6 or 7 years old now. And I started to feel some type of way around them. And this feeling, this romantic feeling that I just could not articulate, or I couldn't describe, and I couldn't accept, resulted in me being sort of like a bully. I would just, tease and mock the girls, and I wouldn't have any female friends. I would have all male friends. Yeah, I think that's when I can kind of remember when I already started feeling something romantic. But I'd always suppress the feeling. And I'd always look in the mirror, and I would try to say, I'm gay, or I'm a lesbian, or I like girls. And whenever I tried to do that, I would kind of just break down in tears. It would get very emotional for me, because in the process of trying to accept my own sexuality, I had to repress so many ideals that were taught to me from a very young age. I would look at myself in the mirror and I would say, it's very simple. Say, I am gay. And in the effort of just trying to say it, all of these thoughts in my head would just race through. Remember, you wanted that white picket fence in the house. You wanted a husband. You wanted to have kids, biological kids. What are your parents going to think? What are your friends going to think? Your life is going to be so hard. You have to come out to everybody. You have to think about what other people think of you. Are you sure that you're gay? Are you sure that you want to come out? It's okay, You could just suppress that feeling, and maybe you'll find some sort of happiness. Maybe you'll find some peace and serenity. Those are terrible feelings. Those are terrible thoughts. And thinking about it now, I feel bad. It makes me want to cry almost. I feel this weight in my chest. And I did that. I juggled with that for maybe a couple of years toward the end of high school. So when I was 17, 18 years old. I remember the first person I really came out to was my friend Lucy. My best friend Lucy. Lucy was my roommate in college, and so we met in college, and we're still friends now. And I remember, I think we may have been hanging out in the dorm, and our friends had just left, and we lived in the dorm, and we slept on bunk beds. So she was on the bottom bunk, and I was on the top bunk. And I remember just having a conversation with her before we were gonna knock out, and telling her that I think I'm gay. I think I'm a lesbian. I think I like girls and I prefer that. Or maybe I'm bisexual. I think maybe I'm bi. She's the first person I ever talked to about that. I had never accepted those feelings or those thoughts until that moment. I remember explaining to her about the thing that I just told you about, looking into the mirror and trying to say that I like girls, and I couldn't do it because I would just break down, or I would have a panic attack and I'd run out of the bathroom and tell myself, Steph, it's okay, just forget about it. Just don't think about it. Lucy was so understanding and so gentle and so nice, and she listened to me the whole time I was talking to her, and I didn't even know what I was saying. I don't even remember what I said to her, but I do remember coming out to her and being ambivalent about it. But it felt good. It felt good to accept such a huge part of my identity, even though I was still so uncertain. And the uncertainty came from me overthinking, from me caring so much about what other people were going to think of me, from me being afraid of what my parents would think, of how they would react, of me possibly getting disowned. Yeah, it's scary. I'm going to tell you about the story of when I started to come into terms with my sexuality, about being gay. And it all started with a sorority party. I had just been initiated into my sorority, and this was my first semester being a sister, learning the ropes, and it was a lot of fun. I met a lot of different people. I learned how to talk to people. As an awkward person, that is a huge plus to initiate small talk conversation with strangers. So there's this one rush event, where we were hosting a mixer with another fraternity at their fraternity house. And everything was going well when all of a sudden conflicts about money started to rise between us and the fraternity, and nobody was in a good mood to have this mixer anymore. It was just awkward. And when we were at the mixer, our rushes were having a good time, sisters were interacting with them and dancing with them. The sisters who were in charge of the background stuff, the behind the scenes stuff, they were not having fun. Neither were the bros. At one point, it was really stressful, so I went upstairs to cool down, cool off, and it hit about 12:30 a.m. when I realized I should probably go downstairs and see how everyone else is doing, see if anybody needed some help. I go down the stairs, and all of a sudden, I see one of my sisters, and she's like, "Steph, I need your help. Come down here." And I saw the urgency in her eyes. Obviously, I got scared. I went downstairs and I noticed that there's this girl who was in need of help, and she just was not feeling good. And Helen's like, "Help me get this girl outside. She needs to take a breath, but she's just not feeling well. I just want to help her, make sure she's okay." We escorted her outside to the front lawn, and it was dark. The streets were dark. It was creepy outside. It was the middle of Long Island. Just no cars, barely any streetlights. And so it's me, my sister, and Rush, and she's just chilling on the grass, taking a breather. And I'm taking in how creepy it is. And Helen goes, "Okay, Steph, bye. I'll see you later." She just left me. She went back inside the house and she just left me there with a Rush that I didn't know. I didn't take her there. Another sister took her there. Didn't even know what her name was. I have no idea who she is. I'm in this situation which is very, very awkward. I'd never been in a situation like that before. And so I remember thinking, oh my God, what do I do? Obviously, I asked her, "Oh, do you want water? Are you okay? How are you feeling? How's the party?" And she was like, "Yeah, I'm okay. I'm fine. I'm feeling better." And so I said, "Okay, cool. Why don't you get up from the ground, because it's kind of wet and dirty, and just hold on to me for a bit." Anyway, long story short, it was that night when it was just me and this Rush, when I realized that being alone with somebody like this in such an intimate way, in such an intimate setting, if something felt right about it. I couldn't explain exactly what it was that I was feeling, but I felt the butterflies. And I also felt like I was light. I felt very light. And I remember thinking, I had never felt like that before. I'd never felt that way before. That Rush and I ended up dating for about 8 months, not for a very long time. And that's when the rest of my coming out story started to unfold. I got some bad advice, and I ended up coming out to my parents at a pageant that I was in. My dad didn't react to it very well. I'm trying to recollect what happened, but I sang a song. It ended up being dedicated to my ex-girlfriend. That's how I came out. That's how I came out to a lot of my friends and acquaintances. I came out to my close friends individually, so I would take them out for lunch and I'd be like, "Hey, I'm dating someone," or "Hey, I'm seeing somebody." They'd be like, "I knew it." I didn't want to say that I knew it, but I had a feeling. When I came out to my parents, it was after the pageant. We went out to eat to a diner, me, my ex-girlfriend, and my family, and it was very awkward. And I don't know why they couldn't have just left school. They couldn't have just left and gone home if they weren't taking it in so well, but that was probably the most uncomfortable I'd ever felt with my family. Oh God. Months go on. I don't really talk to my parents about it. I come home during Mother's Day, and, we don't talk about it. It's still a little awkward. All of a sudden, my mom, in the car, was like, "Oh, my kids are growing up. My sons are getting taller than me. All my sons are getting bigger and growing up." And when she said all my sons, she also meant me. And I said, "Mom, what are you saying?" And she said, "My sons, right? You're my son now." And she chuckles in a very facetious way. I tell her, "Mom, just because I like girls and I'm gay, that doesn't mean that I want to become a man. It just means that I have a preference towards women. I have a preference towards women. And even if I were to transition, that doesn't mean I'm gonna be any different. I just had no idea that she thought that's what being gay meant. So that was an educational moment. I'm thinking now, I remember having this conversation once about, I was in the kitchen, I think I had just broken up with a significant other, and my dad or my mom told me, hey, we're worried about you. You seem to be going through relationships quickly, and it seems like you can't commit. And we're worried that, that's what's, your love life is going to be like, shallow relationship after another. And I remember it sort of made me laugh. I just thought I'd bring it up. It's still scary to me sometimes to hold Jennifer's hand in public, to be very outward of my love for her, knowing that I am still very much unaccepted and unloved by so many people in the community, especially probably my community. I live in a very white town, very conservative white town, and I know there are racists here, and I know there are homophobics here, and I know there are anti-Semites here, and I know that there is a very unwelcoming sphere of people here. And so I still carry that fear. To even be myself is hostile to some people, and it sucks. I remember once I had a conversation with a friend, with many friends, but this was between me and this particular friend and a group of friends. I remember asking him, no wait, I don't even remember my question now, but I remember it was a conversation about just being. I remember asking him something along the lines of, what kind of person do you want to be? So he asked me back, what kind of person do I want to be as a man, as a friend, as a black man in this neighborhood? I said, those are good questions, but what is it that, like, how do you feel? Because sometimes I forget that I'm a woman. I forget that I'm a woman of color. I forget that I am a woman of color who's also gay. I forget about all these intersectionalities, and I just remember that I am just being. And he said something along the lines of, when you're with the right people, you don't have to think about that stuff. You just exist. And you exist independently of the body that you're in, of the life that you've created, the life that you can't control sometimes. You are just being. And when I am fearful of showing my love and showing myself in public, I think about that conversation. I think about how happy I am just to be with this amazing woman, and how lucky I am to be in a society where at least I am somewhat accepted. At the very least, it's too much energy to be so hateful. Then again, it's a lot of effort to be loving. But it's not really. That's what we say to ourselves is an excuse to not be loving and to not be considerate and compassionate with each other. I don't have all these thoughts together, by the way. I'm just talking to you. I don't have any advice. I wish I had some advice to give, but I don't really have too much advice because everybody experiences life differently, and if I were to give you advice, it's like half of the story. It's not even the full story. I'll tell you about some things that I've learned, and take it as you will. You're always going to have haters. No matter what, there are going to be people on this earth who will find a reason and pick a reason to not like you. And it'll be something so minuscule, something so irrelevant, but they'll hang on to it. Because like I said before, it's so much easier to hate than it is easier to spread love. Know your self-worth. Know that you're valued. Know that you're deserving of love. Know that you are deserving of kindness. Know that you are deserving of so many amazing and so many nice things in this world. So many nice experiences. Yeah, I love you. I value you. I think you're so worthy. I think you are amazing. If it's any consolation, I think you're awesome. When everything else falls apart, our self-esteem, our self-confidence, our families and friends, when everything else falls apart, knowing your self-worth is always going to be your backbone. It's always going to be the thing that picks you up. It's always going to be the energy that you have to keep going. Because it's like I said, it's really hard to exist. It's really hard to exist nowadays. And it's especially hard to exist in America nowadays. Something I think about too is like, I don't want to be dying one day. I don't want to be dying one day. I want to be immortal. I don't want to be on my deathbed one day and realize that I did not live life the way that I wanted to live life. And I lived life according to what other people and according to how other people want me to live. That would be very sad. And I think that's why I am so gay, and I try my best to be very gay and to be supportive of other people who are in the LGBTQ community. Anyway, I think this is the video. If you want to have another conversation, please feel free to subscribe, like the video. Talk about stuff in the comments. Talk about your experiences, what you think about this topic. What else can we talk about? Call me out on something, I guess. I don't know. Let's talk. Yeah, write a comment down below. Let's just have a conversation about this. Show me some love. I'll love you too. Like, subscribe. What else do they say at the end of videos? I enjoyed having this conversation with you, and I hope that we could have it again another time. So, talk to you later. I love you. Bye.